Thank you. Warm greetings again, friends. Thank you. We'll begin as we always begin and reactivate our Bodhichitta. This is the one thing that we always is kind of the essential point of dharma. So it's the answer, really honestly, the answer to every question is Bodhichitta. And then it's just a matter of unpacking how that's true. So with that kind of very clear understanding, the exceptional importance of Bodhichitta will all just kind of activate that heart and mind of enlightenment, the genuine concern and care for all beings, and the wish that what we're doing right now becomes the immediate, direct cause of every being's happiness and their enlightenment. Thank you. So the kind of theme that I was kind of orienting around the past couple days for this specific time together was painting a fuller picture. So painting a fuller picture. And then specifically I was thinking about painting a fuller picture of ourselves, and then also a fuller picture of dharma. And then I think specifically it was kind of, as I was looking at it and kind of feeling through it, and it was more kind of emphasized the fuller picture of oneself, of me. And I think one way to put this, or one way I've thought of it, is just we all have these many selves. We all have a plurality of selves. We take different roles, we have different moods, we show up in different ways at different times. We have different talents that come out, different limitations that we have, different ways we get stuck at certain times. We have the sleepy me and the anxious me and the excited me and the relaxed me and the dharma me and the non-dharma me and the friendly version of me. And we have all these aspects to ourselves. So it's kind of how do we actually kind of lean into really like allowing them to be there more fully, have a fuller sense of self, of me. So to allow for a more plurality of selves. And then specifically related to this point, many of us know, like no self is such a key, essential dharma teaching, the foundational teachings of Buddha Shakyamuni. And I think the way that I understand this is it's no fixed self. There's no fixed me. There's no one me. There's no essential identity that is me. There's no one way I am. I'm a fluid. Like everything is fluid. It's interdependent. It's dependently arisen. And we all are. And we keep changing. And this is something that is like kind of a common understanding in one way, but it's so deep. I mean, they say to really understand interdependence is to understand emptiness. To understand emptiness is to actually achieve freedom. So, how can we allow for a greater plurality of selves, a greater flexibility of selves? And two things that kind of came to mind with this for myself, as I was kind of going through this a little bit, is, and this is, I thought of like some little points that have helped me and that also kind of came to mind. One is like we're all human. The humanness of me. Right? We have to allow that to be a part of this process of dharma. I'm a human being. The humanness. You know, I have all kinds of limitations and prejudices and preferences and beautiful things and things I don't want to be aware of and things that I shy away from. But they're part of me. And it's just because I'm human. And we're all just human. And so that's one side. Humanness. We all have limitations. We are relative beings. We're limited. And then on the other side, we all have an unlimited nature. And the Buddha taught this so clearly. And all the teachings in Buddhism really come to this point, that we all have this unlimited, unrestricted, inherently flexible capacity to allow for anything to happen. It's totally accommodating. This awareness that's utterly flexible and free. That we all have this unlimited awareness, this unlimited intelligence, and this goodness. That is bodhicitta. That is the Buddha nature. So, in thinking about or feeling through this, really a plurality of selves, or allowing myself to show up in different ways depending on what's happening in my experience and who's around me and what's helpful now and what's not. These are two things that I always have to kind of keep checking in on. They're two things that help me to not get so lost down kind of in some kind of fixation, some kind of holding too tightly, is that I'm a human being with limitations, that I'm human. And two, I have an unlimited nature that goes beyond any kind of identity or sense of me that I could ever conceive of or ever feel or ever imagine. I mean, it's really inconceivable. And these two aspects are always at play. They're always part of the nature of relative interdependence. And so that's two things. If we allow ourselves to have both those sides or both those aspects, to kind of, to show up in one way as we are, but not be totally defined by those roles we take, because then we're fixating on a certain me. And also to to really check in, and the main point is to come to experience this unlimited nature that we all have. This utterly flexible. It's the no fixed part of the no self. It's unfixed or flexible. And we have both of these aspects. So in terms of the ways of actually fully engaging with the Dharma, I think that's really important to allow ourselves to have both those things. Because if we cut out the human part, then we're all just pretending. And if we cut out the unlimited nature part, then it gets so tight so fast. And it's just too serious, and there's no levity. And there's no tenderness to it. It's just so tense. Always just freedom, 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 breakthrough, breakthrough, breakthrough. On the other side of it's all just my feeling right now, and what's in my body right now, and what happened to me last week, and those, we have to care about those. But if we get too wrapped around those two, then we lose the bigger perspective. We don't allow ourselves more room to change. We constantly circle around a certain story, a certain set of identities, a certain kind of set of me's. And that's so limited compared to actually our unlimited nature. And so then we go to look at the Dharma with this. How is the Dharma? It's not, we can really think of it as a plurality of Dharmas. It's always Buddhisms. It's always multiple. There's not just one Buddhism. It's Buddhisms. And we've heard this so many times, and it's such a, in one way, kind of obvious teaching because it's been repeated so much, but there's so many yanas, and there's so many techniques, and there's all these vehicles, and there's all these views. And there's all these ways that we engage the views with meditation and with our behavior and conduct, and we get a certain very specific result or fruition that corresponds with that sequence of view, meditation, conduct, and fruition. But the Dharma itself is so flexible. And it's almost like we've talked about this and we've heard teachings about this so much that it's almost like we don't really have to say more, because it's so, There's just so many teachings on this. Foundational Buddhism and Sutra Mahayana Buddhism and Tantra Mahayana Buddhism and Dzogchen and all these lineages and all the ways that we can release our holding. There's so many ways, and they always have to correspond to the way we're holding, the way we're stuck. And that's where the plurality of dharmas, the multiplicity of dharmas, the really infinite ways that the Dharma expresses itself, and the unlimited ways that the Buddha so kindly taught us to help us get free of our holding, our fixation, our fear, to be a little more inclusive, a little more open. So there's so many ways that the Buddha so kindly pointed out how we can do this to relax certain kind of grasping. But it's always related to the type of grasping that's happening with us right now. It's not related to someone else's grasping or to my grasping 5 years ago. It's always where we work, where we apply the teaching is always right now. And that's where the plurality of selves and the plurality of dharma, the flexibility of self, the flexibility of mind, the flexibility of the teachings to have a more open mind, that's where they come together in what actually helps right now. So how am I showing up right now? How does the Dharma meet that, like a medicine, or like a kind friend, or like there's all kinds of ways that we can release our tension, our fixation, our kind of limited ways of just holding in a set kind of pattern. And it always comes down to right now, this present moment. So I was thinking, what are some ways, if there are all these selves, and each of us we're so rich. We're so it's extraordinary how diverse we are, each of us. And it's extraordinary how multifaceted the Dharma is, the teachings of the Buddha. So what are some ways that we can let ourselves keep coming back to these points, to let ourselves be human and be unlimited, and to meet the Dharma in this present moment in a way that really lines up and helps us open, helps us release, helps us relax just a little more. And the one point I came to, and this isn't in a systematic way, but was just digestion. Contemplation is digestion. Venerable Khenpo Tsewang Dongyal Rinpoche talks about it often as absorbing the teachings. It really takes time to absorb these teachings. It takes a long time. And it's so rewarding, and it's so valuable, and so worth it. And I'm sure always in our visualizations, the Buddhas are just rejoicing that we're doing this process, that we're engaging on the path. They're always so happy. It's never we visualize the Guru Rinpoche in the sky above scowling at us saying, "You're so bad. How can you do this wrong? Your visualization's so horrible. Why'd you do that yesterday?" and all that. They always look with such kindness and such love, it's like an only child, oh, you're doing it, Keep going. They're just so kind. And it just takes time. It takes time to digest things. It takes time to absorb the Dharma. It takes time to release these habits. It's just good for myself to keep coming back to that. This is a long process, and it's so rewarding and worth it. Every step into opening to become a little more flexible, a little more attentive to others, it's only going to be beneficial. But the process is sticky, because our habits are sticky. Otherwise, they would just dissolve and disappear. The habits would be gone, But even if when Vajrasattva purifies us entirely, then, the habits just pop back on. We're totally relieved of all the habits we recognize and release, and we're in our unlimited nature. And then we get sleepy, or we just think a thought comes, an emotion comes, and then they all just line up again. Our fixation's really sticky. And so many things out there are very sticky. And they're asking us to stick more, grab me, look at me, watch me, use me, eat me, buy me, stay with me, engage with me. They're wanting to just draw us in, draw us in, draw us in. So it's a very kind of involved process to just relax and be like, oh, I see that happening. I see the invitation, but no thank you. It's okay. I'm good. I'm going to kind of rest with what's happening right now and not immediately kind of grab onto the yummy treat or the whatever it is, push away the really scary thing. So that's what we're practicing in meditation, to let what's happening happen. And then it changes, and then it becomes a different thing, and then let that happen. And it just keeps changing. And so then that's kind of the practice. We keep kind of like letting all this multiplicity kind of happen. The waves come and the waves go. And that's just the path. So we should kind of allow, it's good to know that's what's going to happen. It can be a good just heads up to see that. And if that keeps happening, then good. Then we just, as long as we keep relaxing and kind of keep getting a little more tender, more soft, more clear, then just keep at it. And because this process takes a long time, then a second point I thought is we really need protection. These habits are so sticky. We need to be really practical in creating a safe space around us, in our environment, in our minds, that really help us keep this digestion process happening. We really need these, whatever you call it, boundaries, or a space that we go to, that we do these certain type of activities like meditation or studying dharma, like retreat hermitages, or a little spot in your home where you're just doing this process of meditating, that we need this protection. We need the protection circles in Vajrayana Buddhism. It's always part of the sadhana practice. Our shamatha, we need these containers, because it's really, like we've said before, baby Bodhichitta, baby Rigpa, it's just little babies, We need all these supports. They're just supports, and they're secondary supports. We don't have to have them always forever. They change as our own emotions change, as our experience changes. But we require them all the way on the path until we're actually totally free and we can actually not kind of lock onto anything that comes up on our radar. We can see it clearly and not lock onto it. Then these are totally free beings, these beings on the bhumis, or they're enlightened beings. But until then, we need these secondary supports. That's very practical, and that's just essential on the path. That is the path. How do we use these secondary supports that really help us protect this baby bodhicitta, this really genuine good intention? What actually helps me in this moment line up with the dharma in a way that like my heart opens a little more, I soften a little bit, I really get a more enthusiasm to practice, to actually connect, to be kind, to listen. Those are all secondary supports. We need that protection. This refuge, we need this. There's just no way around it. If we try to talk around it, it's just talk. Because we're humans with unlimited nature. We're not just unlimited. We have all these limited human habits that come up that are part of our experience all the time. And we need ways of releasing them. These are the supports we use, protection. That's a kind of a point that kind of came to mind with that for me, is this vulnerability. We're really fickle, The mind is fickle. I'm really fickle. And that's really the greatest superpower we have. I can be influenced. I can be moved. Like I can experience something and it can open me, and it can just make this soft, tender, like really curious, engaged experience. Because I can be influenced. Because I'm not locked away in a fortress, Like being vulnerable, letting life affect you. That's such an extraordinary superpower. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't be relational beings. We would just be frozen and stuck. And on the flip side of that, vulnerability is really the greatest weakness too. Because we can be influenced. And so many things out there they're not encouraging goodness and bodhicitta and loving attention and a sense of gratitude and confidence and inner courage and courageousness and follow through and rigorous kind of analytic investigation. Like so much is not encouraging that at all. So we have to be really discerning here. That's like where this discerning intelligence is so important. Being open, being tender, being able to be moved. by experience. But having really discerning intelligence of what is moving me in a way that's away from dharma. It's away from my nature. It's closing me away from my unlimited potential. It's not a secondary support. It's a primary obstacle. We really have to discern that. And we have to ask for help too. Because a lot of that's really quiet, subtle stuff that we can't see ourselves doing. So we need these Sangha members, community members. We need these teachers. They'll help point these things out to us before we make too big of a mess with them and we believe in these obstacles too much. So this vulnerability is so key, but we have to be really discerning with it. We need to be open and share and willing to authentically show up in a really kind of touched way, like a sincere way. But we also need to be real careful about who we're doing that with. What's the context? Because sometimes people won't use that for our benefit. They'll use it to take advantage, So this is not bodhicitta, bodhicitta is not doormat compassion, as Venerable Dudjom Tersar Ngondro Rinpoche said so many times. We're trying to be tender-hearted because it's just a tender experience to be alive. It's so wounding. It's so wounded. It's all suffering, We can be influenced. It's uncertain. So it's so vulnerable. It's really, we never have enough clothes for the wind to be really, for us to be really totally everything's completely perfect. There's always some little crack in there that makes it not so comfortable, Like the sick person in a bed, they can't really get in the right position, that Great Master Longchenpa said. It's just always like that. And because it's not always perfect, that really helps us. That's the opportunity. That's the superpower of vulnerability. Oh, how can I use this as an experience to open my mind? Because it's not really the way I want it. Oh, how can I use that to actually develop more compassion? Then this becomes a great opportunity. How do we bring this plurality of me, of selves, and the plurality of dharma together? Definitely the main question that comes to my mind is on the Bodhisattva path is what actually serves others right now? That really brings everything to a point. What's actually helpful right now? So it's not which self do I want to show up with right now in one way and which dharma path do I want to bring right now. It's actually in this situation with this person or in this circumstance or with my mind, what actually helps me connect with my unlimited nature? And in a way that lets me be an embodied being that's relating with experience. What serves? And I thought this, if we don't know what serves, because life's so complicated, there's so many things at play. Relationality is relationships are very sticky too. If we can't figure out immediately with a lot of clarity what serves right now, what is most helpful, we can just express love. Just love. Our own Buddha nature just knows that. It's if we're being loved, someone's appreciating us, our Buddha nature, it just opens. There's a big doorway here with vulnerability and grief, And it's good. I wanted to say, I thought as part of this, I really wanted to thank everyone. Some of you may know, my mom passed away a couple weeks ago. And it's just heartbreaking. And so many people, there's been such an outpouring of so much support and love for her, love for me, love for my family. And it's been just, I just couldn't ask for more. And it's a person you just love so much. I love my mom so much. And what do you say, What do you say when someone you care about lose something that's so cherished to them? You just love them. It's become really clear in my mind. Not perfectly clear, but clear, Sometimes we don't have the right words. We don't know what to say. We're going to stumble and make a mess and make mistakes, but it's just if we come from a place of love, really concern, it's so tough. This is so hard. Life is so hard. It's so hard to be a human being. I know that. We feel that ourselves. We go through things. Oh, it's just so hard sometimes. And then we just love. Oh, I love you, you know. I mean, that's always never going to be wrong. So if we can't really clearly know, what really is going to help now? I'm like, really, we don't have that skill yet. We can just connect to our bodhicitta and just turn it on, you know. I love you, you know. Oh, it's compassion, really. Oh, this is so tough being a human being. It's so tough. All the Buddha said, it's so much in my mind, how much we've cried over the loved ones we've lost in the past. It feels more than the oceans, our tears. Oh, how we've done this so much. How we lost things we've loved, and it's just really First Noble Truth, you know. And that's where things like grieving, it's like such a big doorway. Just a tiny little taste of that now. Oh, we're really all very vulnerable beings. This human condition we're in is so vulnerable. And it's that way for all of us. We all have this suffering. It's just uncertain. Life is uncertain. And in that way, that process, that vulnerability can be really like such a way to connect to others. We're all in this same situation. Wow, it makes so tender. And then the little kind of scary element of it is, my suffering is just, we can kind of wrap ourselves. I really have a sense of that a little more than before. Oh, this suffering I can't bear, you know. This grief is so big, I can't bear it. And my body just goes into these modes where all these things are coming up. All this sadness, and just like, really, it's like this creature I'm like getting to watch. It is in one way funny, but also it's just like, I can't do anything about it. And it's just also beautiful. Like, wow, this vehicle that's just like designed to, you know, to like care for things and be sad about losing them and having gratitude. Like, I didn't have to do anything for it, you know, and my conscious mind, I didn't have to do anything to get this body. And then there's all these teachings about past lives. Like, this is such an extraordinary vehicle each of us have. And we've done many, many good things to produce such a good result. There's more things to say, but we're all in this very kind of whether we like it or not, it's all a very liminal, fluid, flexible space, just being a human being. And it's just not going to turn out the way we want it almost ever. Sometimes we get lucky and it keeps going, we get in a good flow. But it's not really like it lines up according to all of our checklists. It's actually that our mind softens and then we actually start working with what's happening. And then it's like, oh, this isn't so bad. And then these great beings, they check in and they get so flexible with the nature that they really always are meeting the situation in this present moment with such finesse and such elegance and such power and strength and clarity. It's just so fine-tuned and so willing to move as it needs to move, as life moves. They're so moved by it, and they're really willing to meet it right on the dot. And that's where this plurality of selves and plurality of dharma avoids just like anything goes pluralism. It avoids the extreme of extreme relativism. When we're talking about like no fixed self, it doesn't mean infinite selves. It's really highlighting the unlimited nature that we all have, and that experience is just part of being a nested being in life. Everything's connected. The plurality is pointing to like the openness of mind, the utter flexibility of bodhicitta. And then we can show up in any way that's helpful. And it won't be the specific way of me that's I like the best. It'll be the way that's really helpful right now. And we've seen that with these great bodhisattvas. And we've seen that with the Buddha. And we've seen that with all these Buddhas, and that's what they do. They keep showing up in all these varieties of ways. And we're training ourselves to follow in their footsteps, to be that flexible, to show up with 2 arms or 4 arms or this color, or to show up as a sound, or to show up as a memory, or like, I have a friend who really, it's just so amazing. And Shantideva, way of the Bodhisattva, may I be a boat, may I be a bridge, may I be a refreshing breeze, may I be medicine, may I be ambrosia, anything that serves other beings. And this friend literally thinks of herself as being a bridge that all these sentient beings can walk across to get to the other shore. I mean, this is so wonderful. That deep level of service. You really care that much that may I be whatever is necessary to be the balm that soothes the pain for any being. Such a heart wish. It's so just extraordinary to be in the company of people like that. And it's just so refreshing to be at the feet of these great masters that are that way all the time, and to be in a community of practitioners, and to be also just a vulnerable human being, part of this vulnerable, wounded experience, and really to use that as a way to really let this kind of diversity of experience kind of manifest and unfurl, and let the waves of kind of experience and mind keep happening without getting kind of drowned in them, But kind of let them kind of lift us up and let us really support us. Let the diversity actually keep pointing out to that flexibility, the openness of mind. And that's where all this flexibility of dharma and the flexibility of self, it all comes to that point. And then that openness of mind, the spaciousness quality of mind that's inconceivable, can't be put into any kind of fixed category, really beyond any kind of fabrication, designation, any kind of holding pattern. It's completely beyond all those holding patterns. Then that open freedom can express itself in an infinite variety of ways, as the Buddha taught, as these Vajrayana teachings, and as Tantra Mahayana is really renowned for doing. The infinite variety ways of skillful means of connecting with others and communicating in helpful ways with bodhicitta. So that's the main point. Using the tenderness to actually connect with the unlimited nature. We're tender and exposed. We can be influenced and moved. And we're underwhelmed in a lot of ways. It's not just overwhelming, life overwhelming. We're overwhelmed with stuff that doesn't really feed us well. It doesn't bring much nourishment. But we want to be in awe. We want to have the magical, mysterious experience where we're just grateful. And we're just showing up, and the simplicity becomes breathtaking. We all want to be moved like that. And that openness of mind, that actually, that's what it introduces. Such an open state of mind that's so freshly engaged and so simple. So may it be so. And we keep using these practices to reintroduce that same openness in our own awareness, and then to really accommodate other beings within that spaciousness, in whatever way really serves them, to have them be more open and more loving to themselves and loving to others. And there's a bodhisattva path. And that's the Vajrayana kind of essential point. The heart bodhicitta really is the answer of all these questions, and this is just one way to kind of unpack that a little bit. So thank you all. Really love you. Love you. Love you. Thank you.